RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sunrays. I'm your host, Adeep Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the table. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, it's been a while, but we're doing it again. A special sale, a special Ask Dave sale right now at speciesnutrition.com.
Yeah, guys, you always ask me, I get emails from people and text messages, you guys having a sale? You guys having a sale? Because they love these super sales, and it's that time again. Cinnamon donut, 22 serve, $19.99. Guys, I'm telling you, supplies will not last long. Every time we have one of these crazy sales, we never make it past 24 hours and they're all sold out. And we have a bunch of them to sell. So don't wait. I'm telling you, you wait till tomorrow, they'll be gone and you won't be able to get them anymore. So it's while supplies last. Once we run out, that's it. It's over. $19.99. Head over to speciesnutrition.com. You can click right on the link on the slideshow there and purchase your cinnamon donut. Usually people buy it by the case when we have these crazy sales, which is what makes it go so fast. But look, it's your advantage. You're getting the opportunity to try. If you haven't tried it before, or if you have tried it and you love it. To me, cinnamon donut is one of the best tasting flavors. I love cinnamon. I wasn't going to call it cinnamon. I was going to call it cinnamon oatmeal cinnamon cookies. But people told me it tastes like donuts, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, you're right. It tastes like a cinnamon donut. And it's the same high quality isolized that we have for all the other flavors. It's 27.5 grams of protein per serving, and it's phenomenal. And guys, you got to head over to speciesnutrition.com right now because that $19.99 sale will not last.
So again, check that out right now at speciesnutrition.com. The deal is good while supplies last. Now, Dave, you have something sitting on your table. This is not something that you're selling in case people are going to wondering,
no.
Oh, Dave's plugging his own products. It's something cool you received in the mail from one of our fans. Tell the audience a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I get stuff all the time from people, and I thought this was a really cool invention. It's called the Bench Buster. Now, when you go to the gym and you go to bench press and you're using your hammer strength machines or whatever other machines, you kind of have to have a backing on it. I'm always skeeved out because whenever I go onto a machine, there's always the fattest guy in the gym who's the sweatiest guy in the gym or woman on the bench performing, and I just don't want to get on it. And a lot of times people don't clean up. Don't wipe down the machine, or they do a very crappy job, and I'm just like almost embarrassed to have to go and re-clean it. So this is a great solution because I got this from our friends at the Bench Buster, and it's basically like a towel that you put over your bench or anything in that manner, okay? And the great thing about it is that it's antibacterial, antifungal. It basically inhibits the growth of anything. So it looks like my son's the thing you put on a mattress pad, but this is even better because it's antibacterial, antifungal. I will be bringing this to the gym with me, especially when I do any kind of benching. There's certain or back. There's certain exercises, like if I'm doing legs, I don't really need it. Although I guess I could because if I'm doing leg extensions, I'll just keep this with me at all times. This will be my towel that I bring around, and at least I know that anything that touches it or any bodily fluids from other people will be instantly annihilated. So nothing will grow on this thing. Because if you use a regular towel and you wipe down things, okay, the stuff's now on your towel and you got the bacteria on there. This will kill it. So thank you, Bench Buster guys. I appreciate it. You sent me one for my wife and one for myself, and we will make good use of this.
On that note, let's get to the questions. Again, if you want to jump in, you can jump in on our Instagram page, or if you're a member of the Dave Palumbo Experience on the app, you can ask your questions via the app. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, why don't you suggest depleting glycogen via workouts the week of the show before you carb load?
Well, because usually I have people on 0 carbs anyway the week of the show, so they're already at 0 glycogen. And you got to remember, you're still working out. You work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is usually the last day before a Saturday show. So you are depleting glycogen, and if I'm not feeding you any carbs that week, or very little carbs, you're depleting your glycogen. So that's exactly what you're doing. All the training you're doing that week is using glycogen. You're not eating any carbs to rebuild new glycogen, so you're depleting. And then when you start carbing, your glycogen is low. The advantage to doing that is that when glycogen is low in the muscle doesn't know that there's not enough carbs coming in. It thinks there's not enough glycogen synthase, which is the enzyme that stores glucose as glycogen in the muscle and in the liver. So because it thinks there's not enough of this enzyme, it produces more and more and more. It produces way more than is normally physiologically there. Then when you reintroduce carbs, you have more enzyme available to store glycogen, and that's why you will superstore glycogen. So if you're on a very low carb diet, you'll notice that when you do put carbs back into your plan, it's almost like you get this super compensation effect, and it's because of the fact that now you have more glycogen synthase to store the glucose as glycogen, because that's the rate limiting step. In other words, the ability to store glycogen in the muscle has nothing to do with how many carbs you eat. It has very little to do with taking insulin. The limiting step is really how much glycogen synthase is in that muscle that will enable you to load glycogen in the muscle. And the only way to really raise that is to limit carbohydrates for 3 days or more. So if you're on a very low carb diet and then you carb up, you'll be able to carb up much more effectively because you have more of this enzyme present.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The second question, does TRT downregulate your receptors the same as a cycle would?
To a certain degree, but not really, because when you're taking testosterone replacement, you're taking kind of a physiological dose. I mean, 200 milligrams is probably a little higher than physiological, but even if you're in that 100 to 200 milligram per week range, that's physiologically what your body naturally produces as a male. So you're not going to really downregulate much. Now, if you took 750 a week, that's way higher than your body naturally produces. Now you're going to create an effect where the androgen receptors will back up a little bit. They'll back down a little bit because they're going to say, whoa, we're getting too much stimulation. There's too much testosterone here. Let's back down. So yeah, if you're on HRT, you probably will have that same receptor affinity. If you go higher than that, obviously, then you're going to really downgrade your receptors.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. If you're not following us, our handle is official_RxMuscle. First question from our good friend Samir Trudy. If Kevin Levrone wins the Mr. Olympia in 1992, do you think he would have won as many as Dorian did?
It's a good question. Levrone in 92 was gung-ho. He wasn't one of these guys. He wasn't the Levrone he became after he tore that pec. He was training all year round, and I think he would have probably continued to get better and better and better. I think that, assuming he didn't tear it, but you never know. If he would have torn a pec the year after, that might have been sidelined him. And, Dorian in 93 was unbelievable. So I think that Dorian was really just hitting his stride here. If Levrone snuck one Olympia out, I think that Dorian would have come back in 93 and he probably would have won. But who knows? Once you win the Olympia, you kind of it changes the course of history. So he might not have been in the same places at the same times, and maybe Levrone wouldn't have torn the pec. I don't know. Once again, when you speculate with these things, it's very hard to tell. But Dorian was on the way up. 93 was his best year, so he was only improving. So was Levrone in that sense, but I don't know. I think that Dorian made greater strides from 92 to 93 than Levrone made, especially because of the pec tear.
Let's go to Black Hand Brandon. Any advice on aging with training? What adjustments, health supplements should a person adopt in their 30s? I'm only 32, but I've noticed big decreases in my metabolism and recovery time.
Yeah. I was just talking to John Meadows. We did a little Guru Talk show. Today we recorded. And we were talking about that, and we were saying as you get older, your body just can't handle some of the free weight compound movements as much. And a lot of times it's better to go to some, more machines that are going to help support the weight for you. Everyone's different though, but I know guys in their 50s that are squatting and they're fine, but it just seems like the joint flexibility, the connective tissue, elasticity seems to not be as good as you get a little older. The key is if you can put that muscle on while you're in your 20s and early 30s, when you get to your later 30s, 40s, you don't have to lift as crazy as you did because you already got the muscle. At that point, you're kind of maintaining it, just refining it. So you can change your training strategies. And once you have muscle, it won't go away. In other words, if you squatted for 10 years and built huge legs, when you get to your 40s, if you stop squatting and you do more, or lighter squats, leg press, hack squats, more extensions type, isolation type stuff like that, you're not going to lose the size you have. You may not get bigger, but you won't lose the size you have. So I think that you have to change your training strategies if you want to have longevity in the sport. Otherwise, obviously, you're going to be prone to more injuries as you're getting older.
We've been getting a lot of questions lately about tendonitis. Paulie Leadon wants to know the thing to take for tendonitis in the elbows. I can lift much more than I do, but can't take the sharp pain.
Yeah. Tendonitis is one of the most frustrating injuries because you haven't really torn anything. It's just kind of like you're getting a rubbing. The tendon is rubbing against the bony surface and it's creating constant chronic inflammation in the area, and it limits what you can do. And there's different reasons why we get it. Elbow tendonitis a lot of times is due to shoulder referred pain. So in other words, you have something going on with your shoulder, you're compensating with the way you're holding your shoulder when you're doing movements because it hurts, and the pain is being referred to your elbow. That's one reason. Sometimes it's a tricep issue. It could be forearm problems. Usually it's shoulder pain though. And I send a lot of guys to my ART guys, that I know. And ART when they do the ART on your shoulder down all the way down your arm to your elbow area, that seems to fix it most of the time. Unless something happened traumatically and you're getting pain, usually just an out of nowhere tendonitis doesn't just happen. So it like I said, they usually can mean that you're not getting your therapies done, you're not getting your massage therapy, you're not getting ART done when you have a little tweak or injury here and there. And then what happens is scar tissue builds up. Now what happens when scar tissue builds up, or adhesion, same thing, between muscles, usually muscles slide past each other. Like if you have the lateral head and the front head of your delt, they're not stuck together, they move past each other. But if they do stick together because there's an injury in the shoulder that happened and some scar tissue built up, and now they're stuck and they're moving like this rather than like this, that's going to torque the tricep tendon, and that's going to make the tricep tendon rub on that bony surface down here, and that's going to cause tendonitis, especially when you're doing weird compound exercises. So you got to solve the problem. You can't just put a Band-Aid on. A lot of guys they'll wear knee, elbow wraps, whatever. They'll try anything to try to get out of the pain. They'll take anti-inflammatories. That's great. You'll get rid of the tendonitis, inflammation pain, but you're not getting rid of what's causing it. So you got to get to the cause of the root of the problem if you really want to get rid of it long term.
Let's go to Macking 1977. Is it okay to heat the syringe with oil and it under warm water before injection to thin the oil just a little bit?
Yeah, warm water is fine, but I know guys that like ridiculously put it in the microwave oven or something like that. You don't want to inject hot oil into your body. You will scald the inner tissues and really hurt yourself bad. So if there's a little hot water and you just kind of dip the syringe in, don't put the tip in obviously because that's ridiculous. You're gonna create non-sterility at that point. But if you warm it up a little bit, or even the bottle before you draw it up, no problem. But don't go putting stuff in microwaves or in ovens and stuff like that. Not smart.
Let's go to Brooks Clark. Dave, if you could only take one compound with testosterone, what would it be?
As far as effectiveness goes, I'd say trenbolone. As far as probably, safety in terms of like the least toxicity with with good effects, anabolic effects, probably equipoise.
Let's go to Iron Force Fit training. When doing a yearly physical, what are the healthy markers to look for when checking for optimal healthy kidney function?
Kidneys are basically, creatinine and BUN. I think creatinine is a much more important marker than BUN. BUN can kind of fluctuate with dehydration levels and stuff like that. Creatinine is pretty good. I mean, if you're high, if you're like over 1.3 or 1.4, you probably have to start backing it down. If you're over 1.7, you're starting to get into trouble. So creatinine is a really good marker. If your blood pressure is high, okay, that's a good indicator that your kidneys are under stress. So those two things, high creatinine, high blood pressure, not good signs, not healthy for your kidneys.
Let's go to Diane or Deanne PNR. An alkaline state in the body versus an acidic state. We know alkaline wins, but can your body actually be too alkaline? How would one know this, and what are the potential dangers or risks of being too alkaline?
I've never really seen anyone that's too alkaline, because think about it, you're always producing acidity in your body. So even if you were too alkaline for an hour, I mean, if you went to the gym and created some lactic acid in the muscle, the alkalinity would immediately neutralize it, and it would lower your alkalinity in your body. It's hard to keep up a very high alkaline state in your body. That's why your body uses calcium to alkalinize itself when it has no ability to do it through the foods you're eating or the liquids you're drinking. It's the pH, which is what measures alkalinity and acidity of your body, is constantly in flux. But what your body does is it always keeps the bloodstream in an alkaline state, no matter what. It will sacrifice the rest of the body to do that. So your bloodstream will never be acidic at all. It'll always be alkaline, and it'll always be at the perfect alkalinity, because that's what your body's main goal is to do, is to make sure that occurs. The problem is that the rest of the body will be sacrificed for that. So if the rest of your body is acidic, that's going to suppress your immune system, and that's going to leave you much more likely to be open to other diseases, cancers, and stuff like that, because the immune system is always monitoring the body for cancer cell formation and other type of viruses and stuff like that. If it's not functioning optimally because of the fact that your pH is off in your body, that's going to be a problem. So, like I say, as long as you take a good, highly absorbable form of calcium, you drink a couple glasses of alkaline water a day, you do your, you try to, eat enough greens in your diet, you don't get too stressed out, you make sure you sleep at night. It's all these little things that combine that will help the alkalinity state of your body, But, tremendous stress raises acidity. Heavy duty weight training raises acidity just from lactic acid production, and obviously if you're eating a ton of acidic foods, that's not good as well.
Let's go to Eric F. Mora. Would DHB and premo work well synergistically?
Premo and what? DHB. DHB. I don't know. I'm not sure what that stands for. DHB. D is in David?
D is in David, H is in hat, B is in Barry.
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank for some reason. I don't know why.
All right, we'll go to the next one. Right. Monster Mike. Dave, what show were you at your biggest? What did you do differently in preparation to be your biggest, and I guess presumably at that show?
Yeah. I think it was the North American in 01. I was 281 I weighed in that. That was the biggest. Usually I did my best at 265, but everyone was telling me, oh, you're ripped at 300, you should come in huge. And so I said, okay, and I believe it or not, if you look at the pictures at 281, I was lean. I had striated glutes, and I was a lot bigger and fuller and stuff like that. But you know what? The problem was with my physique is that I'm not super wide in terms of like my clavicle size is not super wide. I don't have a wide waist, but I don't have super wide shoulders like a Jay Cutler or Marcus Ruler or anything like that. So when I get bigger and fuller, in a tank top, I look like crazy. But on stage, I lose my V taper. So I'm better off being sucked dry, just completely, no fat on my body, dehydrated, not too full, because I have better aesthetics at that weight. Because when I hit poses, things just pop crazy. For me, being as ripped as everyone else is not good, because it's not giving me an advantage over them. To get an advantage over these other competitors that were genetically more gifted than me in terms of structure, I needed to be way harder than them. And I luckily had that ability to get that hard. So I think I placed sixth. I probably should have been top 3 in that show, the North American. That was the one Jeremy Freeman won. But, Jeremy Freeman. But I think that I did better. At least the judges liked my physique better when I was crazy, crazy ripped, and that usually happened around 265 for me.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com. Reminder right now at Species-Nutrition.com, cinnamon donut isolized 22 serve, $19.99. This deal is only good till supplies last. They're going to fly fast, so get yours right now at Species-Nutrition.com. Let's go to Carrera or Carrer 84. Dave, I've been diagnosed with distal clavicle osteolysis. I hope I pronounced that correctly, aka weightlifter's shoulder with mild to moderate disintegration of the clavicle. Doctors suggesting arthroscopic surgery to burr the bone as an option. What is your opinion on this? Do you recommend surgery for this, or any advice to fix this conservatively and efficiently?
You know, surgery is always a last resort, but if you're in chronic pain where you've tried everything and done anti-inflammatories and the massage and the ART, and it's just not helping, and you have a legitimate, a physical issue there, surgery might be the only way to really fix it. And, as long as they're doing it, it seems like arthroscopically they're going to do it, and they're just going to kind of shave it down a little. I think it works fine. I had that done to my shoulders, not because of my clavicle. I had a very rigid acromial process in here. And when the bicep tendon and the infraspinatus tendon go through that little tunnel, it was restricted. So whenever I would bench press, I would always get like this pinching on those tendons in there. And I couldn't lift heavy because it would drive me crazy. I couldn't lift without pain. So when I got the surgery I did my left shoulder first, that was the one that really started bothering me first. It was like a miracle. It was like I could lift again. The problem was when they go in there and they start cleaning out stuff, if I had like some torn cartilage, back then they didn't fix, that stuff. They just trimmed it out, which was fine. I lifted for 5 years with no pain. It was awesome. I was lifting crazy heavy, but the problem is they took away almost all my cartilage on my shoulders, so I had only a very thin amount left. That wore away obviously very quickly, and that led to arthritis. Now, obviously, I didn't give a crap when they first did it. I just wanted to be able to lift at the gym. But nowadays, the surgeries, the arthroscopics are much better. They don't trim away cartilage. They fix it. They pin it and they make sure it heals so that you still have an articulating surface there. I don't think that's an issue with you. It seems like they're just going to kind of shave down the bone a little bit so that it doesn't kind of pinch on the tendons or rub against where it's not supposed to be rubbing. Once again, it's probably a 2 to 4 week recovery, the surgery that you're looking at, unless it's something more involved that they're planning on doing once they get in there. But it doesn't sound like a big deal. I would probably get the surgery.
We get often questions about sleep, amount of sleep, but Tony DeFranco wants to know the best sleeping position to optimize recovery. He says, when I'm really tired, I can fall asleep on my back, but usually I roll on my side and sleep with my arm outstretched. And unfortunately, this sometimes affects my shoulder mobility the next day. Your thoughts? So I guess sleeping position for optimal recovery.
Yeah. I don't think there's an optimal way to sleep. I think that as you get bigger and heavier, sleeping in your stomach becomes a non-ability to do that. I bought this chiropractic pillow where it kind of like dips in and it has like a little neck support. And what it enables you to do is when you're laying backwards, your head is up and it lifts your neck up so that you can breathe better, number one. I don't really have a snoring problem anyway, but it also keeps your neck in the anatomically correct position, the curved. It has the sides of the pillows are very rigid. So when you turn to your side, your head is straight and flat on that surface, and it's still comfortable. And I seem to sleep really well with that. You might want to give that type of a pillow a try. It's like I don't know if they call it a chiropractic pillow, but you can Google it. They sell them on Amazon. And there's actually I actually have a link on DavePalumbo.com to a really good pillow. The pillow I'm talking about, I forgot I actually have it on there. I think I'm an affiliate of that pillow. You can check it out at DavePalumbo.com. You'll see the pillow I'm talking about. I think that helps recovery in the sense that it keeps your neck and your spine aligned properly, and that's really going to help you with sleep and getting a good night's sleep. I think a lot of people don't sleep well bodybuilder-wise because they have sleep apnea because they're so big and they don't breathe right. In that case, if you have that, you obviously want to look into getting one of those CPAP machines so that you can breathe better.
Phil Flex wants to know, I'm considering having gynecomastia surgery. I'm not quite sure where to start, what the risks are, and what I need to do to prepare for it. What would you suggest?
Yeah, well, I've talked about this before, but gynecomastia surgery is it's probably one of the most common surgeries that all bodybuilders get. I'd say 98% of bodybuilders top-level bodybuilders have gotten their glands or the gynecomastia glands removed, the breast glands removed. Obviously, gynecomastia is known as the enlargement of these breast tissues in men, and it's usually caused by increases of estrogen production in the body from taking anabolic steroids. Some of it's linked to prolactin increases. Usually it's mostly estrogen related. Prolactin can make the glands lactate a little bit and release some discharge, but it's the estrogen that makes them get bigger. So most bodybuilders have these issues and they have to have them removed. The problem is now where to get it done and who to do it. When I went to get my shoulder done, I've told this story before, I went to a couple local guys that were really good surgeons, and they said, hey Dave, we can do this, but there's a guy in Tampa who does thousands of these. That's all he does. And that's who I wound up going to, Dr. Frankel, who actually invented the reverse shoulder replacement, which is what I got. But he's done thousands of shoulder replacements. And it was a pleasure to go get it done because I felt so comfortable there. There were no complications because this guy does so many of them. Well, Dr. Blau in White Plains, New York, is that guy for the gynecomastia surgeon. I've sent I can't tell you how many thousands of bodybuilders I've sent him, and that he's gotten himself just from other bodybuilders that I've sent referring people to him. It's not one of these surgeries that you just go have the local guy do, because you got to know what you're doing. You want to make sure they take all the glands out so that you don't have to have it redone, which is probably the number one screw up with that surgery is these surgeons don't take enough of the gland out. They don't know what they're doing. They just liposuction. They don't physically cut the gland out. Sometimes they make the scar look horrendous. You don't want scars on your chest, obviously, when you're getting on stage. You also want to make sure the glands come out so that you don't have to worry about, oh my God, is it going to come back? And Dr. Blau's the guy to go to. Look, and if you go to him and you mention Dave Palumbo sent you, he's going to give you enough of a discount that it's going to actually pay for the fact that you have to fly there and stay in a hotel if you can't drive. It's 20 minutes north of Long Island. I mean, it's an absolute pleasure to go to him because he's an expert. You can contact him online. You can send him pictures. You're not going to have to see him ahead of the surgery. They'll set up the surgery for you. They'll send you for blood work probably locally where you are. And it'll be, I'm telling you, it will be a pleasurable experience and you'll be very happy with the results when they're done. Once again, don't skimp on that. If you're going to do the surgery, do it right. Otherwise, you know what? Don't do it and just save your money until you have the money to do it the right way. Don't try to do bargain basement deals. This is not a surgery you want to do that with. Other surgeries, yeah. Anyone can put Botox in your head, okay? But don't go and do these cosmetic type surgeries. You don't see women going to get breast implants from the local 7-Eleven. They go to the surgeons that have reputations of doing good jobs. And that's what Dr. Blau is. He's the number one gynecomastia guy in the world, has been for the last 25 years. Right now he's still at the top of his game. That's the guy you want to go to.
Time for one, maybe two more questions. Ash Smith wants to know telltale signs that you're overtraining.
Burnt out, not looking to go. You don't look forward to going to the gym anymore. Maybe strength is suffering. Usually it's just a lack of wanting to go work out. You think about how enthusiastic and how much you love training. When you get to that point where you're like, oh man, I can't believe I gotta go to the gym. That usually means that maybe you're not getting enough rest, you're not recovering enough. Also not sleeping well at night. That's another big one. I don't know how many people take their pulse or blood pressure. If you're having high morning pulses that are high when you wake up in the morning, another sign of overtraining. Depression, lethargy. These are the reason why you feel this way is what's happening is overtraining is really an exhaustion of the nervous system. It's an exhaustion of the neurotransmitters that enable the nerves and muscles to communicate with each other. When you overtrain, you're using up all these neurotransmitters and you're not allowing your body to replenish them. That's why you got to take days off from the gym. If you never take days off, you don't have time. You're not allowing these neurotransmitters to regroup and replenish. So when you feel like that, take a couple days off. It's not going to kill you. Believe me, back in the day, I had a lot of trouble taking off from the gym, but I always forced myself to take 2 days a week off. Now, if you told me to take 2 weeks, say, Dave, go take 2 weeks off, you can use it. I don't think I could have done that, but I always took my 2 days a week every week off, and if I really felt burnt, I would throw an extra day in there once in a while. So you got to make sure you do that. Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble, and you're not going to make the gains that you want.
On that note, that is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder right now at speciesnutrition.com, 22-serve cinnamon donut isolized on sale for $19.99. It is only good while supplies last. It's not going to last long, so make your move now, speciesnutrition.com. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.